Welcome to The Mill. My name is Rachel Ballatori, founder and CEO of Mill & Co. Thank you so much for tuning in today. We're joined by a very special friend, former client, an amazing woman and dog and cat mom, Courtney Starrett, who works at the Currier Museum of Art in Manchester, New Hampshire. Hi, Courtney.
Hi, Rachel. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming. So a little bit about Court. She works as a digital marketing manager at the Currier Museum of Art in Manchester, New Hampshire. With a background in events and marketing, she assists in expanding the museum's reach and impact with a strong emphasis on an authentic social media presence and creative communications. Her knack for maintaining brand identity and eye-catching graphic design has redefined the museum's digital presence, making it a cultural beacon in the digital age. Courtney lives in Manchester with her partner, their dog Buster, and their two cats, Bumble and Bee. So I feel very at home talking to Courtney, having three dogs myself. Between the two of us, we essentially have a petting zoo. So, all
When
good
you want to
things.
start that, let me know and we can just,
Yeah,
we'll make strides to open that up.
yeah. $1 per pet.
Perfect.
Courtney, great to see you. Thank you for coming. First of all, tell me about your job, your role at the Courier as a digital marketing manager. What are some of your main responsibilities? What's a typical day in the life? Talk us through it.
Yeah, so as marketing typically goes, it is somewhat all-encompassing. So I work with nearly every department on literally any event, happening, program that you can think of that goes on in the museum, and pretty much creating the graphics, the promotion, and the ideas and context from that from start to finish. So sometimes that means working with our graphic designer on flyers or digital promotions, catching a curatorial to learn more about the exhibition before we get that content out there, and then working closely with development for any fundraising initiatives to make all those programs and events possible. A little bit of all of that in every day.
So you're bored a lot is
Always bored,
what
always
I'm
looking for
taking.
stuff
Yeah,
to
you don't have a lot going on. So Courtney's bosses, if you're watching this, getting girl is
do.
working. I love that. And there's probably so many things because you're in such a creative environment, but what do you really love about your job? And on the flip side, what do you find the most
I
challenging?
mentioned talking with curatorial earlier, and it's so cool to kind of get that extra behind the scenes look that I try to include a little bit in our communications because I think everyone wants to know that information too. But getting to know that extra layer about what's going on in the museums and all
Yeah.
these really cool exhibitions that we have coming up. I never considered how much I'd actually learn on this job about art and how much more immersed you get. So that part is really, really unique.
Yeah. And what do you find the most challenging?
Almost the same thing a little bit. Sometimes it's making sure that I'm really getting that information across in the correct way. And sometimes there's extra elements regarding getting, of course, the credits right and making sure that you're really getting across what the artist envisioned when they did open their exhibition. So even though that can be daunting, it's really the cool part too.
Yeah, representation and
Mhm.
making sure you're hitting the right notes, enticing
Definitely.
people to come in, sharing all the proper information, but also leaving something to be desired, right? Because we want them
Exactly.
to come in and check it out.
That's a perfect example of our current exhibition that we have on view right now. It's called Heart of a Museum, and it's by this amazing artist. Her name is Saya Wolfalk, and it is totally immersive. There's soundscapes, projections involved, and it truly feels like you're in another world when you visit this exhibition. And there's no true way to capture this in image, even though we just had our awesome photographer come and take some really great images in it. We all we can tell you is come and visit, put yourself in there. It's a very meditative space as the artist intended. So it's
Yeah,
one to see it on your screen, but it's another thing to be here in person.
absolutely. As is most art, you know.
Mhm.
And we're living in such a digital screen-focused age that it's nice to have something that you can go and sit in front of and be in that meditative state or think more clearly because you are removing yourself from screens and distractions, which I find myself doing
100%.
half
I feel
minutes.
like we should all try to include at least even just a little bit of like that visit where you can just sit and be calm and just take yourself away from the screen for even like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And we're so lucky to be working in the museum. Not that I'm there today, but when I am in there, all I have to do is just walk upstairs, and that kind of blows my mind every single time. I know that sounds a little obvious, but they're right up there, and it makes such a difference in your day.
Yeah, of course. And the Courier has such a great vision of connecting art with diverse audiences from its neighborhood to international and digital visitors, and then embracing some more regional and local museum goers, as well as underserved communities. How do you help carry that vision out through the work that you're doing as the digital marketing manager?
It's a lot for sure, and I'm glad that you touched upon all of those, so thank you. But I work really closely with our art education and programming departments who do amazing work with those wellness programs that you just mentioned. My amazing colleague, Corey, who works with one of our programs called Art of Hope, which serves family members that have those suffering from substance use disorder. So she works closely with a lot of local communities who directly support those people. Same things with our other colleagues that work closely with communities who support veterans. And we also have one of our newest wellness programs called Expressions Through Art that serves cancer patients or people who have just recently beat cancer and their family members and caregivers as well. So maybe you don't always think about art directly serving those communities, but it has such a special place in doing so. So working directly with those places right here in our community and even beyond when we do it digitally is so important.
And accessibility, I think that's really the big thing that the Courier is trying very hard to push is we can kind of meet you where you are, whether it's digital, whether it's in person, creating programs specific to specific groups, organizations, and communities creates more opportunity for accessibility to art.
Absolutely. It's just it truly is for everyone. And sometimes we do just need that reminder. And just like you said, there's a digital space for it too. We're coming back soon with our Art Conversations from Home program. Even if you can't make it in one day, or like we were talking about before, you just want 20 minutes to yourself to kind of sit back, take yourself away from your workday, from whatever you're focusing on, and even just to talk about it. It sounds so small, but it's not. It's impactful.
Yeah, of course. And the Courier has been around forever, seems like. No, it was opened in what,
Yes.
1929?
29.
29, the roaring 20s.
Exactly.
How talk us through the process. You're especially thinking about things like social media, which evolves every, 4.5 minutes. How has the Courier been evolving while staying true to their roots, their culture, their origin, the love for art and community? How has the Courier had to pivot and evolve to stay relevant in an ever-changing digital landscape?
For sure. We've done a couple things recently. For one example, this summer, we had an amazing marketing intern that went to URI, and they kind of revitalized our TikTok that we had started a couple years ago. But I was really hoping for someone kind of younger and more up to speed on that than I am to kind of take it over. And luckily, they came at the perfect time, and they started creating these really fun and honestly really informative and educational TikToks that got that attention of that
Yeah.
much younger dynamic that we don't always see here.
Mm.
And it was just such a nice reminder that, like I said before, art is for everyone. It doesn't matter your age. These people were interested and it got a lot of views and they did a great job. And a lot of them were kind of from the POV point of view of a college student entering a museum. And they got the attention of so many accounts. And just that one simple video of just kind of doing a once over of the historic court that was built in 1929, like getting that view, even though it's on your screen, like that was kind of an oh my God moment for a lot of people. Like, I have to go see that space. And that just opened up the door to more TikToks about like our exhibitions and like certain details and up close shots of awesome pieces we have in the collection, whether it was Picasso, Monet, works that people had no idea that we had right in Manchester. It was a really cool way to open the door to that.
Yeah.
And they did a great
Well,
job. So all the credit to him.
I love to hear that because I think I have some clients and colleagues that I talk to and they're kind of like, whatever, TikTok.
Yeah.
The power that that platform has for true, pure, organic reach because of how complex and detailed the algorithm is. You can really reach a big audience that is genuinely interested in the content that you're sharing. And
Hmm.
I think it's so fascinating to create kind of a POV of someone experiencing art. I
Hmm.
think there's a big stigma around who art museums are for. I mean, let's just call it what it is. It's for an
Exactly.
older white audience,
Hmm.
retired, right? That's when most people, and I'm completely generalizing here, but it's a
Historically, that's
pretty
what it's
common
been. Hmm.
stereotype, right?
Yep.
And that's not the case, especially at the Courier. Like we are attracting everyone. We are for everyone. You don't have to be retired to come in and experience art, to pop in on your lunch break and have lunch at the cafe, in the garden. It's I see social media being such a powerful tool for a place like the Courier.
100%. And just like you said, like it's minimal effort, but it goes a long way, especially with
Yeah.
TikTok. Like I'll find
Yeah.
myself boosting certain posts on Instagram and Facebook, but we didn't necessarily need to do that with TikTok because it did get that organic reach.
Hmm.
And the representation is so important. We've recently had so many exhibitions led by female artists, which you weren't always historically seeing. I'm so happy to say you're seeing that more now, not just at the Currier, but at other museums too.
Yep.
But we just had an exhibition close called Distant Conversations, and it was putting basically two artists who have never met before in real life in conversation with each other. One is Ella Walker, who is an artist that lives in London right now, and she was born there as well. And the other artist was an American artist named Betty Woodman. And just seeing both of their art in the same space, having conversations with each other as two female artists, it was amazing, honestly. And
Yeah.
that exhibition that I mentioned earlier, Heart of a Museum by Saya Wolflock, she's another amazing New York based artist that is being represented at the Courier. So to have those on almost at the same time, and we have more exhibitions coming up in 2024 by women artists, by artists who are minorities, and that representation really matters.
1,000%. And to amplify that representation is where social media comes in. I think that's amazing. So the Courier does a ton every year in terms of events like the block party. I'd love for you to share, Courtney, what are some things that we can expect? And are there any changes to events coming up this year? And then if people are interested in learning more about attending, supporting, maybe even sponsoring, how can they find all that information?
I am so excited for Block Party already. Historically, we've always had it in July, typically in the middle of the month, towards sometimes the end. Always come. It's a massive community party for literally everyone. You can expect a ton of outdoor activities, whether it's art activities, live music, a beer and wine tent, and then plenty of food trucks that somehow seem to grow each year. And of course, for gallery admission inside with even more activities and stuff going on. It's not an event to miss. It's definitely something you want to be at. So keep an eye out for that. We're also excited about some of our exhibitions that are coming up this year, and we are hoping to have at least one big exhibition party that we typically always have in the fall, but sometimes depending on the exhibition that changes. So keep your eye out for that too. But these events are awesome. They're always on our homepage and they're always on our social media channels if you follow our Facebook and Instagram and TikTok.
When you follow their Facebook,
When.
Instagram, and TikTok.
Exactly.
So I want to shift gears, Courtney. I want to talk about you and some personal questions. What drew you to the Courier? Do you have a
So
personal connection, or were you just like, oh, art? Like talk me through it.
a little bit of both. To be honest, I don't have a huge background in art. As I said, I'm learning more and more every day, which is amazing. But I originally started in 2018 in the events department, actually. As we were just discussing, the Courier puts on these awesome events internally, whether it is the block party or an exhibition party or a fundraising gala. They also do some other really cool weddings that are ultimately beautiful, as you can imagine, and other events for whether it's a nonprofit organization or any corporate organizations. They do private events for that as well too. So it started as me wanting to go work at this non-traditional, beautiful space like I had done in my past working at events, and it kind of shifted over the years into this marketing role. So it was a really nice transition, and it was a cool way to see how the museum operates in all fields.
Yeah, love that. And you've been there for a long time now.
It has, yeah. I only took a year break off of it during COVID when everything kind of slowed down a little bit, but
Yeah.
came right back to it and happy to be back.
Yeah. I mean, it's just such a fun creative space. And
It's
I can't
awesome.
imagine someone not loving being around that much creativity and insight and beauty all the time.
It's hard to complain when you work in a museum. But even beyond that, beyond the beauty, it's so cool to work with people who are so passionate about art, who have worked towards it their whole lives, and this is their background, and this is what they love. And it shows through everything they do, whether it's our art ed department that I was talking about earlier in education programming, or curatorial or events. Everyone is there for a reason, and it really shows.
I love it. Great team camaraderie.
Mhm.
I'd love if you could share maybe a moment when you felt especially proud of the impact an event or something that you organized for the community, for the museum, and the visitors
Yeah.
had. Is there one thing in particular that comes to mind?
Yeah, not necessarily one that I organized, but it was kind of a whole museum-wide effort. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the artist and illustrator Tommy DePaula. He has close New Hampshire ties. He's amazing. I'll show you some of his work after. The Courier has so much of his work in our collection. But we recently honored him earlier this year. The U.S. Postal Service gave him a forever stamp with one of his illustrations of his character, whose name is Stregonona, this old Italian woman in this adorable illustration. that's being honored on the stamp. And his family came, and all of these people across New England and beyond that love his books and love him and grew up whether reading his books or reading their children his books. He's been around forever. He's an amazing artist, and that celebration was so unique, not only because everyone came out and showed their support at the museum, got to see his works on view, but also I remember this one woman, I can't remember her actual name, but she came dressed up as the character. And I mean, she completely committed, like went full out.
Yeah.
And instead of calling herself Stregonona, because she was a bit younger, she calls herself Stregomama, and she actually goes around like local libraries and she reads kids his
Oh,
books and more. And that's kind of her whole gig, and it's amazing, and it's the most precious thing. And she was there, and she got to be called out in the kind of celebration when they had the speaking announcements, and it was really special.
how do I not know who this is? As a first generation Italian woman who had nonnas and, all the crazy stories, I'm absolutely going to check out this artist when we get out this
100%.
podcast.
Yeah, you're gonna want to at least get the books. It's the most
Yeah.
adorable and beautiful illustrations.
I also sometimes feel that I'm a stregononna. Like sometimes I wake up and I'm like, oh, you know what I could do today is just like make a shitload of pasta and sauce.
Sounds
And that
amazing.
probably is like every 3 days that I have that feeling, Courtney. I can't explain it. It's in my blood.
As an Italian, that's your duty. That's you're doing well.
Yeah, it's my rite of passage. Last but not least, part of the Courier's mission is that they are committed to inspire. And I'm just wondering, how has that mission of inspiring people impacted you in your personal life?
For me personally, I love being able, like I said earlier, to work with those people who are so passionate about what they do. But that has even inspired me I have never taken an art class before. I have never been someone who was even interested in that. I was a band kid, if that counts.
Same.
But perfect. We recently, or we're about to rather, have a jewelry workshop coming up that's taught by a League of New Hampshire craftsmen member that I would love to take. Jewelry is something that I feel like is very approachable for me to start kind of in the arts, and I'm so excited to take that. And we have so many other cool classes too that I think I'm going to start this season. That is one of my goals. And I feel like really diving into that is going to help inspire me to even be more creative in my job. So I'm super looking forward to that.
Yeah, love that. They're inspiring you to inspire others. It's just like a
Exactly.
single inspiration circle, you know?
Domino effect.
Well, Courtney, thank you so much for joining. It's a pleasure, as always, to see you. If anyone who's watching is interested in learning more about the Currier Museum of Art, they will be tagged in our LinkedIn post. You can also go to their website, and please connect with Courtney on LinkedIn. She'd be happy, I'm sure, to field all of your art-related questions.
For
Be
sure.
prepared for your inbox to now blow up, Courtney. I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay.
All
Appreciate
of our millions of viewers.
it.
But Courtney, thank you so much. It was really a pleasure to have you on.
Thanks, Rachel. I appreciate it. It was great talking to you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone who tuned in to The Mill. We will see you next time.